Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Full disclosure, it's a little early. I'm going to be away this weekend, but I still wanted to do the weekly Devar Torah. This is, once again, student Rabbi Shmuel, and hope to be looking forward to becoming a rabbi soon. End of June, we'll be flying out to New York, and we'll be ordained by the Rabbinical Seminary International after a 3-day intensive, and very excited about that. So, shout out to my now former students, former Hebrew school students, but most important, Zach. Next week is your bar mitzvah. It's going to be very exciting. But shout out again to Nathan and Ari and Alexis and Lily and Jack, Marissa, and Aaron. Miss you. I'm going to definitely miss you guys. It's been a great year. Really enjoyed teaching you and working with you and interacting with you. So this week we start the new book of Numbers. Now the Hebrew name is Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. It's the name of the book, and it's also the name of the first portion in the book. Okay, and of course, again, the name is taken from the first sentence, usually sometimes the second sentence of the Torah portion. And why is it called Numbers? Bamidbar, they're in the wilderness. Yes, they are. The book of Numbers is about some law, but it's also about some of the things that happened. We're going to see the whole thing with Korah. When there was a rebellion, they sent the spies out. So it's a very interesting book of the Torah. So again, why is it called Numbers? Because the book starts out where Moses is taking a census of all the Israelites. So why are we taking a census? Well, first of all, there was the incident with the golden calf. Some of the Israelites were killed for that. And God really treasures his people. He's his chosen people. And let's take a moment to segue here. Why, in what way are the Jews the chosen people? Did God choose us? Yes. But more important, we chose God. God offered us his commandments, and we said we will do and we will hear. So we were ready to commit even before we heard those commandments. We were so devoted to Hashem, right? So we are God's chosen people. And God takes a very attention, takes a lot of attention in the detail, sees all of us individually, which is interesting because the great Jewish philosopher Abraham Heschel of the last century, of the 20th century, and by the way, Dr. Heschel, a great rabbi in his own right, marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. Anyway, he said that one of the reasons we pray, the big reason, is so to be in God's attention. So God is looking at us, counting us one by one, but he also listens to us, he hears us, he sees us pray to him. We are in God's mind, so to speak. So God is counting us. Now, very interesting point when we're taking a census in Judaism. How do we take a census? We do not go 1, 2, 3, okay? Again, and we have a service this Saturday morning. We want to know if we have a minyan. Some people show up, they're not Jewish, they're not fully Jewish. We want to count the Jews. You're not supposed to say, let's see if we have a minyan. 1, 2, 3. We don't do that, okay? The way they took a census is they took the half shekel from everybody, and they counted the shekels, so it's an indirect way. And the census was for the people age 20 to age 50. And when they counted those men who were between the ages of 20 and 50, of all the different tribes, the 12 tribes, and we'll talk about that in a minute, okay, they came to about 600,000, give or take, a few tens of thousands. So it was 600,000 men ages 20 to 50, which once again tells us that there was a lot of people in the wilderness. There was like 2.5 million people, if you include the people that are younger than 20, and the people that were older than 50, and the women, right? So why are we taking a census of people between the ages of 20 and 50? Because these are the people that would go out and fight the wars, right? You're physically mature at 20. Now this contrasts to the age of spiritual adult. So the physical adult age is 20. The spiritual adult age is 13. When a child becomes 13, when they're heading for puberty, then they're counted as a spiritual adult. Interesting, because we have different ways of denoting an adult. In the same way, we have different ways of denoting the new year. We have the secular new year in on our calendar, give or take around April. This is the month of Nisan, when Moses led all the Israelites out of bondage of Egypt. And then we've got the spiritual New Year, which is typically September, sometimes October. It's in the fall. It's Rosh Hashanah. It's the seventh month of the year. It is the spiritual, right? 7, very spiritual number there. And it is our spiritual New Year, and that's the month in which we change the year. So we have different ways of counting who is an adult, and we have different ways of numbering the years, right? So we have that census, and we're counting all the people, and these again are the men that will go off to battle. But it's also making sure that these are the people that are kind of the bulwark of society, right? Now, when we say the 12 tribes were counted, all right, there are times when the half tribes of Manasseh and Ephraim, the sons of Joseph, are counted as 2 separate tribes. Sometimes they're one, depending on whether you count the tribe of Levi. Levi did not have any land, all right? They were the caretakers of the temple. They're also the caretakers of the law. I mean, you had different Levite cities in different parts of Eretz Yisrael, of the Promised Land of milk and honey, halav udavash, and they were the spiritual caretakers of what would become Judaism, right? So sometimes they're counted, sometimes they're not. In this case, they were not counted, but they're counted later. The different clans, the Gershonites, the Merarites, and the Kohathites, and each of these clans, each of these families had different jobs, different tasks when they took down the tabernacle. The Gershonites, that was the oldest son, they take the most important parts of the tabernacle, whereas the Kohathites, that was the descendants of the younger son, they would take the less important, like some of the staves and the poles, things like that. Okay, so I want to digress here, all right, and of course we do a Devar Torah, but this week let's do a Devar Haftorah. Now remember, the Haftorah is read, it's taken from the book of the prophets. And it's there to enhance or somehow explain or give further meaning to what the Torah portion was about. And the purpose of the Haftorah, it came about in the Middle Ages when the Jews were not allowed to read the Torah. They weren't allowed to do the Torah portion for the week during the service. And you had the king's men walking around making sure the Jews didn't do the penalty of death. So what they did was they found another section in the Tanakh, in the prophets, that wasn't the Torah, that wasn't the law, but that had the same message, right? So the first Haftorah of the first portion of Numbers is taken from the prophet Hosea. Now everybody knows Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel as the main prophets. They're main only because they wrote a lot in their books, right? Now, some people think that Isaiah was actually 2 people. They look at what he wrote about. They looked at the time in which he wrote, and there's actually 100 years apart. So they say, well, there was really 2 Isaiahs: Isaiah, Deutero meaning second or repeat. Martin Buber, another great Jewish philosopher during the 20th century, actually thought there was maybe 3 Isaiahs. All right, the Orthodox they say 1 Isaiah. That's it. 1 Isaiah, 1 Jeremiah, 1 Ezekiel. But you also have another book called the 12, right? These were the other prophets that didn't write so much, right? Joel, for example, wrote only a few books. Hosea wrote like 5. He only has 5 chapters to the book. Now, why do we mention Hosea? All right? Hosea was an interesting character. He married a woman who was not Jewish, but he loved her. And it's almost like he was told by God, go ahead and marry this woman. Well, she kind of had some, what we call today, issues or challenges, emotional challenges. She slept around a lot. She cheated on him. She didn't really take care of the house, okay? But Hosea really loved her, and he really believed in her, and he helped her, and eventually they got back together again. And it was during this process that Hosea says, you know what? God is probably thinking the same thing of his people, okay? Because rather than obeying the Torah, rather than obeying the commandments, we're going off into idolatry. We're skipping some of the commandments. We're cherry picking which commandments we observe. We're not really into it, but God still loves us, and he still hopes for the day that we will come back to him, okay? So Hosea really believed in this woman. He was there to support her. Now, how is this relevant to today? I'm sure some of you might be thinking this anyway. Okay, what about a man and woman get married, and maybe the woman gets involved in drugs? Or maybe the husband gets involved in drugs, or gambling, or drinking, and they don't really, they're not the spouse that the other spouse thought they might be. So they go through this, they go through a very tough period, they hit rock bottom, they come back, they go through rehab, and the family is still there for him. And of course today we have the whole concept of tough love. You send somebody off to rehab and you tell them you've got to get better. And that's today's relevance. That's today's interpretation or manifestation, if you will, of what Hosea was dealing with. So you see, the Torah really is, and the Tanakh, our holy scriptures, are very, very timely and very timeless in how they treat things. You can always find some relevance in what the Torah is. So I hope you enjoyed this Devar Torah. We are approaching Shavuot. We are also have a new month of Sivan, which is on Yom Shishi, Friday. So enjoy. Hope you enjoyed today's Devar Torah, and thank you again for watching and listening. Let me know if you have any questions as usual. Shabbat Shalom.